Today's guest is someone that I'm super excited to speak to, and he is a professional mindset coach. However, he's been fired from every single job that he's ever had, and now he's a coach. But welcome to the show, Haydn.
Thanks, Nick. Almost every job. Well, every job, okay? Almost every job I've ever had.
I really wanted to start with is we'll actually start right there. And how did you get into coaching and mindset specifically?
How I got into mindset, when I was 16 years old, my mother walked into the bathroom. And now at this point, I'd been injecting drugs and drinking alcohol hopelessly for more than 2 years. So I was an early starter. My mother walked in the bathroom and I'm in the shower, I'm naked. And I'm like, the hell are you doing here? She sits down on the bath, tears running down the side of her face. And she opens up this DVD case and there was some used syringes in there. And she says to me, I don't know why you're doing this to yourself. You've always been a good boy. And at that point, that hit me so hard, the emotion of the moment and the words that she said shared, that I started to question myself in my life. I started to question these thoughts I had of, I'm a worthless piece of shit, I'll never be loved and I'll never have a place in the world, I don't belong, I ruined my family. Like, I had all those thoughts swimming around my head at 16 years old, and I truly thought my future was going to be death or in jail. That was where I saw myself by the age of 18 or 19. And so when she said this, you've always been a good boy, it was enough to, to like put a stop just for a moment and question those thoughts. It was enough for me to question those thoughts, all those nasty ones I had, and look at myself and ask, well, what if I am a good boy? What if she's right and I'm wrong? What if these people who tell me I have this potential and if I applied myself I could be someone? What if they're right too? And that questioning of my own thoughts and whether they were the truth or real was enough to steer me in a new direction. I stopped hanging out with those friends who I was doing drugs with. I stopped breaking the law. And it saved my life. Truly, it saved my life. And that was the start of me understanding that my mindset, the way I thought, the way I perceived myself, was the source of everything. It was the source of all my feelings and all my actions. So that was the start of my own mindset journey. That was nearly 16 years ago, 15 years ago. And when I then came to about 30 years old, so going through life, I was impatient when I was younger. I thought I knew better. I thought, so I thought I knew better than my bosses, and I'd end up progressing in companies rapidly. I was managing one of the most violent pubs in the state at 22 years old, leading a team of security guards who, they were 3 times the size of me and twice the age of me. And I'm the leader. I'm responsible for over 150 people at 2 a.m. in the morning when they're all drunk. So I progressed rapidly in life. I was so impatient and I thought I knew better that I ended up getting into arguments with my boss or saying something inappropriate and it ended up letting me go. And so I moved through many jobs looking for experience and learning and growth. That with other reasons, Robert Kiyosaki says, not for education, not for money, and I took that on board. And another one of my mentors guided me to look for what I value and who I can be and how a job would provide that. So with every job I left, I'd ask, well, how do I get more of what I want, less of what I don't want? How do I earn more doing less? Well, I valued the people, I valued the interaction, I didn't want the late nights, I didn't want the alcohol, the gambling. And so every time I left a job, I'd be looking, what do I want to bring that I loved about that job, and what do I want to remove? And I looked for the next job that would have that. So I constantly was, getting fired from these roles, and constantly out looking for what's next, what's not the same thing, something different. And by the time I got to 30, I developed many skills in leadership communication that allowed me to succeed quickly. I thought, how do I apply these without a degree, without a school education? I couldn't get a job as a manager in a in a corporation without these certificates, these qualifications. And it was by chance I discovered coaching. I was feeling very lost at 30. I was wondering what's wrong with me. Why can't I get my life together? I want to provide for my family. I want to use my skills and my abilities and take them to the next level as well. How can I do this? And one of my friends said to me, "Hey, why don't you go check out this group on Facebook? They'll give you complimentary coaching and maybe, see what turns up." And I did. I got really uncomfortable. It was part of me just to put my name out there, say, "Hey, I'm looking for some coaching." I didn't want to be told what to do. I didn't want someone I didn't know looking into my life. I was still ashamed. I still hated myself in many ways. So I was afraid to put myself out there. And I did. I knew that my best life lives on the other side of my fear. And when these people coaching me, I thought to myself, "Are you telling me I could build a career out of this? Are you telling me people will pay me to sit, for me to sit and listen and talk and drink coffee?" I thought, "I am in. This is the best thing ever. This is perfect. I love talking to people." So I just started studying coaching like there was no tomorrow, reading books, online courses, and I was signing myself up to be coached by anyone. And so in my first 2 years, I think I had more than 50 coaches myself to given to me. Let me experience what this is like. How does it work? How does it not work? What's a good coach? What's a bad coach? Give it to me. And I happened to, I was going through the numbers on my phone, just calling people saying, "Hey, would you like a complimentary session?" And one of my old managers who fired me, who wanted to do a session with me. And he liked it so much, he offered to open a franchise with him, a business coaching, action coach, business coaching, and he would pay for my education. And I saw the values of the company, 14 values, and I connected with all of them. It was like honesty, integrity. Um, the one I connected with most was abundance. And I'd never heard of that idea before. I was like, this sounds like the best thing ever. I'm aligned to all of these values and I have no idea what this one is. And he's going to give me a business education. I'm in. And so I did. I got certified, qualified as a business coach, did it for a year and a half. However, I was mindset coaching people. It was completely inauthentic business. I didn't know what I was doing. I was pretending it didn't work. Mindset coach, where I had some integrity, where I overcome these thoughts of I'm worthless, I'll never be loved, and become this confident, powerful person. That was where I could guide people, and that's where I've stuck. So it started at 16 when luckily my stepmother came in and shifted my mindset, and then again by chance at the age of 30, discovered the world of coaching and found something that connected with all my values and where I could make a difference and earn great money and create a great lifestyle. So that was my journey.
Amazing. How has that transferred into being a dad now?
Oh, that's a great question. I would say that my wife has been my most difficult client. And it's like, having my marriage work has been one of the most difficult things I've ever done. And more difficult than being self-employed and creating this career in many ways. So what it's taken me to develop, to overcome myself and be with a woman and have a marriage work directly correlates over to coaching. And what it's taken to have children and be a great dad, learn patience and understanding and listening correlates directly over to coaching. But I wouldn't be the coach I am if it wasn't for the woman I married and the children I have, for sure.
Why do you think it's been, or your wife has been, your toughest client?
Um, so I come from a family where my parents stuck together no matter what. That was it. Through thick or thin, my dad and my stepmom were stubborn. They're in it till the end. My mum's philosophy is unconditional love. You love people no matter what. And my dad's philosophy is you do whatever it takes to keep the family together and provide for the family. And I adopted those. So that's where I was coming from. My wife, on the other hand, her dad left when she was very young, and her mother had multiple relationships with different men that didn't work until she found the man she's with today, and they've been together 20 years, I think. So we were coming from very different philosophies on how life works, how relationship works. And we both needed to discover ourselves and overcome ourselves to be with each other. So, for example, you know, my I I discovered in the early first 3 months of our relationship, we were having an argument. My wife, and she's an A student. She's got these big, powerful shoulders. She's 5'6", but quite broad. She's coming at me with her head down, looking like she's going to take my head off. And I shit myself, and I thought to myself in that moment, she's a psycho. And I kept that idea of her. Like, I held on to it. It was an unconscious creation that just stuck. And so in the years that came, whenever I saw her be emotional, any kind of resemblance of that moment, what was there for me is she's a psycho. And I'd start reacting to this thought instead of being with her and her emotion. And as I start reacting to her emotion as she's a psycho, I'm on guard, on defense. I'm no longer listening to her. Now she's emotional and not being heard. Guess what happens to her emotions? They get higher. So when her emotions get higher, I go even more on defensive and not listen. And that would escalate into arguments. I needed to discover myself that I was causing these arguments through this mindset I had. I needed to discover that. She needed to discover that she had these views that families don't work. You don't have sex in relationships don't work. She had a whole host of unhealthy mindsets as well that were both getting in the way. But we needed to do that work on ourselves and give these things up so we could actually come together and align and create mindsets that match the future we want. Create views and opinions and perspectives that match what we want to create as a family. And so through learning to be with her, be with myself, what I'm really dealing with, that directly correlated over to me with my clients. When I learned to be with my anger, that I am angry sometimes, that I have these reactions, when I can catch them and deal with them, when my clients are angry, I can be with it. I'm no longer just my reaction. I can be something more than it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. How did you
Yeah.
and your wife tackle that then?
Man, well, lucky you're bringing attention to all the stuff in my life. I was very lucky to have this coach who I thought was a dickhead when I first met him. I didn't talk to him for like a year. He turned up when our marriage was at the brink of destruction. I was getting so angry at my wife that I wanted to hurt her. And I'd never been that angry with anyone in my life. Like, it was the first time in my life I saw red. And I was terrified. I was like, I can't be with her. This is like, if I actually act out this anger sometime, if it takes over, I'm going to jail. I'm going to do something. I'll never see my kids again. Even if I don't go to jail, we'll split. I can't keep getting this angry. We'll split. My wife's English. She'll go back to England. I'm Australian. I'll go back to Australia. We're living in Canada. I don't want that. I want my family to work. I want my daughter in my life. And at that time, that coach who I thought was a dickhead, I don't know how he turned up. And he's like, hey, come along to this introduction to this course that I recommend you do. It could make a real difference. And I was at the point where I was like, well, I'll do anything to make this work. I'll try anything. And I turned up, and it was an introduction to the Landmark Forum. And in that introduction, I saw, just in this 2.5 hours period, I was trying so hard to be a perfect father, and I wasn't being the father I wanted to be. I wasn't being loving, fun, and spontaneous. I was too strict, trying to be this perfect father. When I saw that, and it was like, man, I had no idea I was doing that. I registered to a course on the spot. And that coach who I thought was a dickhead at the time, it's actually he still noticed me today. Actually, we're good friends now. He actually paid for me and my wife to do the course. So I was like, I don't have any money. He's like, look, put it on my credit card. And I said, will you pay for my wife too? And he's like, yeah. I was like, honey, we're doing this course together. And that's where we really got to see who we were both being in the relationship, the thoughts that were causing us to be who we were being, that was having the relationship not work. That was the beginning of us having our marriage work. And that's the landmark for it, which I invite everybody to do.
Yeah. What was her reaction when you told her she was going on the course?
She just accepted it. So earlier on in our relationship, we were, I don't know how young we were. And we're in New Zealand on a holiday. And my wife's a high performance trampoline coach. She's one of the best in the world. And so she produces elite athletes. And I would say to her, like, you need to go through what the people you're guiding are going through so you actually understand them and can guide them through it. So I get her to do stuff that pushed her way out of her comfort zone. And we're in New Zealand on this holiday, and she's learning to snowboard for the first time, and I take her right to the top of the mountain. And on her first day, I don't know if you did snowboard, you probably have, you're a Kiwi.
Yeah.
She's going down the mountain on the snowboard, and you know when you get scared on the snowboard and you just lock up stiff? And to snowboard effectively, you need to be smooth and fluid. Well, she locks up stiff and she just becomes a bullet. And she's flying down the mountain at full speed like a racer. And she catches what does she do? She catches a toe edge, and so comes round and her bum's facing down the hill, and then catches a heel edge and goes flying. And it bends into a V at the hips and lands straight on her bum. And she gets up and starts screaming, told you I didn't want to do this. I didn't want to go to the top of the mountain. And she starts walking down the mountain with a snowboard under her arm and says, tells her, how do you look? I get, you're scared that nobody walks down the mountain. Okay, so you're going to fall the rest of the way down. And she did. Hey, it gets better, so stay with me. The next day we go bungee jumping. And the whole way there, we're on the bus to the bungee jump, and it's 150 meters. It's a suspended platform over a canyon. And the bottom is glass. And that carry you out there while it looks like a shopping trolley over this canyon. And she's getting out there, she's all confident, and I'm telling her, look, if you don't do this, I'm going to break up with you. You have to do this, And I wasn't joking around. We get out to the edge, and she's all strapped up, and I've done my jump. I went first. She gets right to the edge, looks over the edge, and then goes, no, I'm not doing it. Starts screaming at me, he said he'd break up with me, I didn't want to do this. The same thing as the day before. She did eventually get the courage up and jump off the edge, and she loved it. But I very much stand by my word. If I say, we're going to break up, or I mean it, so she learns that if I say we're doing something, we are doing it. There's no backing out. Yeah, she got that earlier on in our relationship.
Nice one. Normally it's the other way around for me. My wife is telling me what we're doing. So, what advice would you give them? What advice would you give them to other dads and sort of building that foundational relationship or that special relationship with their wife?
That's great. For advice, the first thing I'd say is self-development is a must. It's not a nicety, it's a necessity. And we only develop ourselves with others. So that's either through reading their books, through listening to their podcasts, or through being directly with people who have what we want. So they already have the successful family. They're already in love, 20 years into their marriage. It's already working for them. Listen to people who have what we want and who've gotten what they want through values and principles that connect with yours. So honesty, love, integrity are values of mine. They're not perfect, don't get me wrong. I don't always live by them. I break them every now and then. But finding people who value what we value and have what we want, and we can we're willing to listen to them and stop listening to ourselves. So through that self-development, we can have everything we want. I'll also say that the thinking that's gotten you to where you are won't get you to where you want to be. So if you're in a relationship and it's not working for you, you've got to look at yourself and how you're causing it and be responsible for it. The funny thing with all of our problems is we're always there. We're always at the center of our problems. And when we can take that level of ownership and responsibility, we can start to deal with how we've caused everything in our life. And that will create a space for us to then cause what we want instead of continuing to cause what we don't want. So 100% self-development is a necessity. At least books, at least podcasts. It's best done directly with powerful leaders who have what we want, who have values and principles we want to live by. And nextly, you got to listen to them, not your own interpretation of it, but to them. You got to be willing to give up what's already there in you that's getting in the way. If you hold on to that stuff from the past, you'll only get more of your past. You want a future, you need to create a new mindset, a new way of thinking and perceiving things. That would be my
Then,
advice. And that was a lot.
how do I listen better then? Like, this is something that I've actually noticed in myself, that my wife says that I'm not listening. I am listening, but maybe I'm not hearing. How do I develop that skill?
Love that question. And yeah, if your wife says you're not listening, you're not listening. Okay, that's the first thing to accept. Okay.
Yeah.
And there's different things to listen to. And look, we're not taught this anywhere. There's different things to listen to. So number one is listening to your wife. What she's saying, what she's perceiving, what she's committed to, what she's up to, what's important to her. All of that's going on in her words and her communication. What she's feeling is all happening. You can hear all of it. The other thing to listen to, and this is what's missed, is what's going on in us. Our own thoughts, our own interpretations of what they're saying, our own reactions. If we're not listening to us, by default, we're only listening to us. So if we're not consciously listening to what's going on in here, all we're going to hear is what's going on in there, because we're going to be unconscious, and our own thoughts is what we will hear. We won't hear the other person. So you've got to listen to you first and foremost, and how you're reacting to what she says. When you can start to be conscious of this and what you're actually listening to, then you'll have the opportunity to listen to her. And you can put aside your thoughts, your opinions, your perspectives, your reactions. Then you'll be able to listen to her and her thoughts and her opinions and her perspectives. And you can listen to them as a perspective, not as a truth, as a way of she's looking at things, not as if it is the way. Okay, and when you can separate your thoughts and you're not your thoughts, but then her thoughts that are, as she is not her thoughts, they're just something she has. Like your heart beats, you're not your heart beating, it's just there. Your brain produces thoughts. You aren't them, they're just there for you to listen to. Then you can be with each other. But you've got to listen to this one and put it aside. The way you can practice this is you say back to her exactly what she says. And you really start to stand in how's she thinking, how's she feeling, what's going on for her. And you keep putting aside your reaction to it. Yeah. When you say back to her what she said, she's going to say yes or no. And if she says no, she'll correct you. And she'll really appreciate that you're actively listening and putting the work into making sure you get her perspective. You get what's going on for her.
Yeah. Is that the same for your children as well? The same concept for them? Or do you find that it's subtly different for little ones?
It's the same for everyone. Humans to humans to humans around the world. So you're listening to your children just the same. What's going on for them? What's their perspective? What are they dealing with? And so even with your wife and children, there's thoughts going on behind what they're communicating. And so if you're not actively listening to what she's sharing, you're never going to get to the stuff that's going on behind. And that's where the goal is. So, for example, the other week I'm in my car with my wife, and I asked her, "What's your resistance? What's your resistance to having these conversations?" Like, it just dawned on me, she gets angry and defensive if I ask her questions. I was like, "What's really going on?" And what was there for her was words are like bullets. I was like, "Oh my God, there's no wonder you don't want to share your words with me. You haven't been able to like kill you with them or wound you with them." And she's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Makes so much sense." If I wasn't putting aside my own judgments, my own reactions to her resistance, I never would have thought of that question to ask to see what's really going on. And now that she's distinguished that, it doesn't turn up anymore. She's no longer relating to words like they're bullets. We created that they can't hurt her. They're not bullets. She finally got that.
So, just changing tact slightly, and you talk about self development. How does exercise or being healthy play into that?
Yeah. So we often separate the mind and the body like they're separate things. They're not. It's this single unit. The how the body functions is how the mind will function. If you're not looking after your body, you're not looking after your mind. It's as simple as that. Your mind isn't just this one organ that sits up there. It's the brain, the mind is got nerves connecting to almost every cell in the body. And that's constantly sending signals back to your mind. So you are this whole integrated system. If you're not looking after the system, you won't function to your full ability. That's going to that'll limit everything in your life, in every area. Your ability to deal with stress, not just mental and emotional, is it is not just mental and emotional, it's also physical. So, when you pick up some weights and you put it on your body, it's not just you're strengthening your body. It's not just your body is adapting. Your mind is too. Because the thoughts that are there is, oh, this is hard. Oh, I don't want to do this. Oh, this hurts. And so you're choosing to be bigger than those thoughts in that moment. You're choosing to be bigger than the feelings in that moment. And when you're consistently bigger than your thoughts and your feelings, you can consistently create a bigger life. Thoughts and feelings are going to turn up no matter what, and you don't always get to choose them. You walk into an environment and there's stimulus. Your body is taking in information through all of the senses. And it's going to filter that information through your past experiences. And so if you're listening to the interpretation your mind produces, it's only going to be what's been in your past. Now, if you want your future to be something more than your past, you've got to stop listening to the default interpretation, the reactive thoughts and feelings that turn up in whatever environment you're in. And you've got to create new ways of thinking to create a new future. So by exercising consistently, you're learning to be consistent. You're learning to be bigger than your thoughts and your feelings. You're learning to turn up when you don't want to. You're learning to push what you think are your limits and expand who you know yourself to be. So there is a phenomenal amount of growth in exercising for sure.
So, what advice or tips or tools would you give to, say, a dad or a parent that wants to break through their barriers or go to that next level? Maybe they're stuck. Maybe they're not sure what they want to do now. Maybe they've sold their business or they've reached the heights of where they want to be, and they're like, what now? What advice would you give?
Yeah. Okay. I say, firstly, start doing something that makes you uncomfortable every day. That's the first thing, and that may be cold showers, ice baths, going for a run, something that makes you uncomfortable every day. For that, overcoming who you know yourself to be and overcoming that desire to not take action. You've got to be bigger. You've got to be willing to take action even when you don't want to. So that's the first piece of advice. Do something little, or you can see, do something every day that's uncomfortable, that you don't want to do, and be bigger than that. The second thing that leads into is stay with the questions. What do I want? Now, not with what I don't want. It is important to know what you don't want, definitely. It's more important to know what you do want. What you don't want, push you away. If I don't want to be here in life, great, I have motivation to move, but as soon as I step off where I don't want to be, I'm lost again. So any direction will work, but then I'm feeling lost again. When you decide what you want and you choose, you'll have focus, you'll have direction. So you must stay with that question. What do I want? Now, before I did coaching, I was a climbing arborist, a tree surgeon, and I didn't want to do it anymore, but I didn't know what was next. And I did it. I didn't know coaching existed. For 2 years, I was looking. What's next? What's next? What do I want? These are my values. How do I find something with my values? And I was willing to be with that question and explore different options. I did car sales. I did door knocking. I did reception work. I did staff accom in supervising staff. I was just looking and being to be with, I don't know, and I'm willing to look. And that's uncomfortable. It really is. We love to know. Be with that discomfort until the answers arise. They will arise when you're willing to be with the question long enough. That would be my advice. Do something that makes you a little uncomfortable every day. Get used to being with discomfort, and then stay with the questions for as long as it takes to find the answer.
So, how do we do that for our children and help them find their path and grow into the people that they want to be? Say, as a dad, for example, I'd love my child to be a professional athlete, but that might not be his path. As a dad, how do
Yeah.
I help him grow?
Yeah. So your children become you. And if you're willing
Okay.
to accept that they're going to become you, they're going to become your thoughts, they're going to become your feelings, they're going to become your actions, your behaviors, then the best thing you can do to help your child is be responsible for you and be the example. Don't preach, practice. Show them the way. Don't tell them, show them. Yes, guide them with your words, console them, teach them the philosophies and the principles and values to live by. First and foremost, you must be living them. So, for example, parents will tell their kids not to lie, and then that phone will ring, and they'll hang up, and they'll say, "Oh," or they'll pick up and they'll say, "Oh no, I'm too busy, can't do that," and then they'll go back to watching Netflix. And straight up there, on one hand, you're telling the kid not to lie, and on the other hand, you're demonstrating that lying is okay. So when you're saying to your kid, not just that lying is okay, it's also don't listen to me. I can't be trusted. So look at who you're being as a parent. That is the best thing you can do. Start to accept the parts of yourself you don't like about yourself. I used to be miserable. I used to be worthless. And start to own that nastiness. When you own it, it no longer owns you, and you can create something new. Look at you. Look in the mirror. Look who you're being. Look what you're thinking. Look what you're doing day to day. Are you aligned? Are you in integrity? When you look after you and you're responsible and you're on this journey of growth, your kids will follow.
That's super interesting. I've already, I think, made a couple of breakthroughs just from chatting to you just now. I'm conscious of we're almost out of time. That's flown by. Is there anything you want to sort of close up with? Any thoughts? Maybe there's something that you want to share with
Yeah,
our
definitely. Yeah, I'd
listeners.
love to. Talking to the dads and the moms if they're listening, that you are responsible for your child's life. You are responsible for their success and their failures. How you think about your children will determine how they turn out. But be very careful what you think. If you think it's possible for them to be champions, if you truly stand in they can be a champion and you live your life that way, it's very likely that they will. But if you have these thoughts that, oh, they should give up, they're just average people, they'll never have that future, well, guess what? That is the future you're going to create for your children. So my invitation is start to look at how you're thinking about your kids. How you think about your kids will cause not just how you feel about them, but how you act towards them. And your actions cause results. So you must be their biggest cheerleader, their biggest supporter. Tell them they can have everything they want. Their dreams can come true. And then live your life accordingly. And live your life accordingly.
Nice one. I think that's a great place to finish up. But is there anything you want to ask of the audience? Where can we find more about you, Haydn? And is there any last call to action?
Yeah, you can find me on the phone. My number's what's my number? +44 74959 22658. That's +44 74959 22658. You can send me a message, give me a call if you like to chat. You can also get me on email. It's Haydn, Haydn. There's no E in my name. And don't put an E in there. I won't get the message. Haydn, M for Michael, G for Griffiths @gmail.com. You can send me an email. You can also find me on LinkedIn. TikTok will be coming soon. And my call to action, what is my call to action? My call to action is keep listening to Nick. Keep listening to Nick. Every podcast, every email, make sure you're listening and you're reading.
Thank you very much, Haydn. You're too kind, mate. Well, if you are listening and you want to get part of the Ultra Dad community, there'll be a link in the bottom. It's a free community. There's a group of supportive dads in there helping each other with their health and fitness, and also guys like Haydn helping us with our mindset and being a better parent, developing a healthier relationship. And also, if you want to tackle big goals, there's lots of resources inside the group. So Haydn, thank you very much, mate. I really enjoyed that. I want to do this again because I think we only really scratched the surface yet there. And yeah, there's such interesting conversation, and I'm just really appreciative of your time. So thank you very much.
Yeah, no, please, man, thanks for having me. It was fun. Thank you.